Okay, welcome. My name is Kim Campbell. I'm the editor of CircusTalk News, and I'm here today with a bunch of circus artists from around the world to discuss the COVID-19 pandemic and its effects on their livelihood and their art. And we probably won't have all the answers to the world's problems today, but we are starting this discussion in hopes that it will help everyone keep the conversation going. So I'd like to start by asking everyone to introduce themselves. Can we start with you, Delphine? You have to unmute your mic.
Yeah, just find the button. So Delphine César, I'm a circus artist and I'm based in Montreal. So yeah, that's it.
Delphine, what is your circus discipline?
I do rope mostly, but I did a handstand statue act also, and I did duo straps, and I did an act on a flying pole.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, Diego.
Hello, everyone. I'm from Brazil, but I'm based in Germany now. I'm a circus artist too. My specialty is aerial silks, also aerial hoop, and well, I think that's all.
Thank you. We have a lot of aerialists here today. I'm just going to give you a heads up. And I think in a lot of ways, aerialists are probably the most impacted because you don't have a lot of opportunities to practice right now. So, Julia, unmute, please. There you go.
Hi. Yeah, my name is Julia Sanchez. I am in Mexico at the moment. I am a circus performer specialized in cloud swing. I do as well dance trapeze. I am a co-founder of the Center for the Diffusion of the Circus Arts in Mexico, and I work as well as production and logistic coordinator of Festival de Mayo in Guadalajara.
Thank you, Julia. Michael?
Yeah. So I'm Michael. I'm a circus artist. I'm French and based in Belgium. I studied hoop diving and I also do straps now. But I'm mostly one of the co-founder of the company called Back Pocket, who's a circus company, a Belgian circus company.
Thank you, Michael. And Eric?
Hey, I'm Eric. I'm a circus artist that juggles cigar boxes and ports Russian bar, and I'm based in Montreal, and I'm a co-founder of the Barcode Circus Company.
Thank you, Eric. Joseph?
I'm Joseph Pinzon, a circus artist doing aerial silks and dance trapeze. I'm also the founder of Short Round Productions based in Los Angeles. Yeah.
US. All right. Mishan.
Hello. My name is Mishan. I'm American Swedish, and right now I'm based in Sweden, in Stockholm. I do hand-to-hand bunkin, Icarian as a porter. That's what I do.
Excellent. Great. Now that we've met everybody, we'll just dive right in with some questions. Julia, I guess I'd like to send my first question to you. It's a very basic one, but one that everyone is thinking about. And that is, what are you able to do now, specifically mentally and economically, to help yourself as an artist to survive?
Well, at the moment, in Mexico, it's always complicated to work as a circus artist. So I have my savings, so I have to take a little bit of my savings to survive this situation. But what I try to do mentally and economically, I think I just try to keep my mind busy and I try to learn the things that I always wanted to learn. We're working on this project that I told you before. So it's a project that we had in mind for a really long time. So now it seems like the perfect moment to start developing this project. That's it.
Great. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, I have a question for you. So you, like a lot of people on our panel today, have sometimes more than two hats that you have to wear in the circus world. What are the different concerns you have as an artist versus as a company director about this crisis? And how do you manage?
Okay, so as an artist, I mean, I think the biggest fear that all of us are facing is what are we going to do in terms of work, because everything's kind of gone. And as a owner of a company, it's also pretty scary because we don't know when we're going to get the green light to bring shows back. And when that happens, if that happens, it's like going to be a race to see who can get booked where, because there's that concern of, okay, do we take priority with the 2020 shows that got pushed, or do we put the shows on that were already booked for that time? And if, depending on which one, where does each show go? And then there's the next season. So it's a concern there, but also for the industry in general, like, you know, Cirque du Soleil might go bankrupt. And that's scary for all us smaller companies because we don't know what to do. You know, it's like if the big one goes down, what does that mean for us? Is that bad or is that good? Or we don't, it's just a big question mark in general.
Sorry, yeah, it's very uncertain, and living with that uncertainty while wearing different hats is probably doubly confusing. And how do you decide what to prioritize, or do you?
Right now, I prioritize myself because I just want to make sure that I stay healthy, that everyone around me stays healthy. It's kind of futile to think of the bigger picture in terms of work right now because the health risk is just so large. I don't think any of us have been in something like this. And so we just have to be careful about what we can do in the immediate area in terms of time and space. And so once that's cleared, then I think the big worry will start. Of course, we're thinking about it already, but first things first, we want this thing to go away.
Yeah. Yeah, very well said. Thank you, Joe. Michael, so thinking about Back Pocket, you had just started your tour, I think in 2019, right? So I wonder how many gigs you've had to cancel for 2020, and is your company experiencing a sense of cohesiveness now? Are you making new plans for the coming year? How's everyone dealing with this?
So as a company, we got pretty lucky because we had another project that we were part of, but not hosting the project. We were working as artists in a big opera. So that was really fun, but we only got to do the general and then everything was canceled. But for our company, for our show, so far we have only 2 shows that are canceled. So it's not that bad, and they might be reprogrammed for next year. And as a group, we're all everywhere. We have one in Hawaii, I'm in Quebec, and the 2 others are in Brussels. But we try to keep it alive, and we're starting to brainstorm on a new creation. So it's like it's a more calm time to think about it, to write, to draw things. We talk a lot about it. So yeah, we try to make most of it.
Thank you. That's interesting. Delphine, so as an independent circus artist, can you tell me your top 2 or 3 concerns that you have about the industry, and how do you feel Montreal is coping with the shutdown of Cirque du Soleil, the temporary shutdown of Cirque du Soleil?
For I as an independent, I'm not so involved in in company here, but I still try to keep in touch with the the Ampiste group that try to organize and to help artists. So it's nice to see people like you do to make reunions and to try how to think about how to figure out. We begin to think how to manage with this time. What can we do to continue to be alive, like creatively, and what we can do for after. How we can manage to continue to make circus, how the big company will continue. Actually, nobody doesn't know anything, so I think that's the point. We are all in the same boat, so that's a good point for me to meet people like you, to make reunions, to federate, to think like all together, and maybe to find not the solution for tomorrow, because I think it's pretty hard to say what will happen in the world, or even in our tiny world, in each in each group. It's very uncertain, as you said. So I think the good part is to think day by day, and that's what we do. And I think that's cool to continue to just be together, because circus is a tiny world. So I think it's, yeah, that's how I feel the situation. I don't know more or plus, and I don't want to make more concern for the future. I want to be in the present, and just feel it, and try to how we can do the present better. So
that's a good point. I think I hear this from not just from Circus, but from everywhere. People saying like, what can you control? So little, like focus on where you are now and what you need to work on now. Which and that leads me to my next question, which is for Eric. Eric, there's so many grassroots measures that people are taking now. They're doing online classes. There's surveys about gigs that you've lost. There's a lot of communication, because that's the only way we can communicate. So it's really heartening, I guess, to see these measures, people coming together. But do you think that this pop-up economy type style of creation that we're doing now is something that will be able to sustain Circus for as long as needed? And if not, what else do you think could help?
I think it almost certainly won't replace how people are used to making money in order to have circus as a career, because I think being an online coach or whatever is its own separate career almost. Although I think many people will begin to learn like a new side hustle, whether it is teaching classes online and developing that, which is sort of still kind of a novelty. I don't know many people that are teaching like handstand classes or whatever online. So I think it's a nice opportunity to start exploring side hustles like that, but I don't think it's going to be a full-time replacement as a circus career. It's not the thing most circus artists have trained to do.
And what do you think about live streaming of shows and things like that? I mean, this is obviously what we're doing now because there's no other option. Do you think there's something about that will be sustainable, or that will appeal to people in the long run? I mean, would circus potentially become less of a performing arts because of this?
I want to say,
I should say, sorry.
I want to say no, because I believe there's a value to live performing that is very much lost when you watch it on the internet. And I think it's a great opportunity, again, because you can see shows that you might not otherwise have been able to see, but it's not going to be the same as being in the theater. So I have mixed feelings about the live streaming for that reason. And I think it's nice that people are trying to share and stay connected and let people stay connected to the circus world. But I don't think it's going to replace the experience of going to see a one-night thing with other people in the room and all the ambiance and all the breath holding that comes with that.
Yeah, that's true. It's irreplaceable. Diego, do you feel that the coronavirus impacts solo artists differently than it impacts companies, groups of organizations? Do you feel that there's any kind of differentiation between the way you're being assisted financially, between your future work prospects? Are you more independent, or is it more restrictive, I guess is what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I think financially it changed a little bit from independent to big companies or small companies, especially if you were working for a big company like me, like working for GOP with so many shows, and it's not, we are independent, but we don't get the same support. So we are kind of lost for the moment, living off our savings, And as Delphine said, that she was very connected. She's trying to be very connected with the community, which was working by independent. I think it's something that I miss at the moment, because as I was not connected at all, like I was connected online, you know what I mean, but not in. So now that everything is stopped, it's kind of like, ooh, so I have to get back to this, which is quite scary, but also a good opportunity to remember, like, what do you value in your work as well. And about if I think the coronavirus has impacted us all. Like, we are all in the same boat. Like, even Cirque du Soleil almost bankrupting, I think that's already the answer. Like, we are all the same. Like, and it can be even harder for, like, Julia in Mexico, for example, that it's already hard to work with Circus. So it might get even hard with means of support from the government. Like, I see that Germany is supporting very well their independent artists. It's just insane. Like, if I didn't have savings for eating or paying my rent, or if I had other bills, I wouldn't have to worry about it, because they are really supporting the artists in this sense. And it's really scary me. It scares me to think about other countries which has not the support for the independent artists. You know, if it's already hard to sustain yourself without being independent, imagine when you have this crisis. So above all, I find myself in a very lucky situation. But yeah, it still will affect us all equally. We are all in the same boat.
Yeah. And I guess a question I have for everybody is, have you received any assistance from your employers, and how does that line up against the assistance you get from the government, or are you entirely on your own with, like Diego says, living off your savings? Anybody want to jump in on that? Diego does. Okay. And then Eric. Go ahead, Diego.
Just finishing that then. So the as GOP, as a private company, I believe you all know, it's a restaurant and a theater. So if we don't play, they don't pay, and we are self-employed. But it's been surprisingly, we have been surprisingly assisted by the company. Who are still in their apartments. We are still in the apartment. So in this sense, yes, we might not be getting paid because we are not playing, but we are still not having to worry about the rent till at least the end of our contract.
That's nice. That's good news. Eric, did you want to say something?
Yeah, so I'm American, but I'm a permanent resident in Canada. And my experience so far has been that in the US, I got an offer for a tax-free loan, maybe from the government, for like $5,000 if needed. And in Canada, they're trying to give, I think, $2,000 give to everyone that needs it, that's unemployed. So maybe I can post a link to that afterwards. But I think that's going to be really helpful from the Canadian government for not only circus artists, but everyone that's out of work now.
And that's automatic. It doesn't. You don't have to be a citizen. Even a permanent resident can.
I think as a permanent resident, I'm also included, and obviously citizens. I don't know who else would fall under that. Presumably just those two categories. But
excellent. Yeah. Thank you, Mishan. I have a question for you. What's your biggest worry about the circus industry right now, as opposed to like 3 weeks ago when you got the news that schools were shutting down and shows were shutting down? Has your attitude evolved at all on it?
I think it's like the others have been saying, it's hard to say right now, but it's scary when you see like big companies like Soleil talking about bankruptcy of, okay, where is this leading to, how it's going to affect the big companies, the small companies. But right now, I think we can't really say much of what's going to happen because we don't know. Everything is changing from day to day. One day it can be better. One day suddenly you can see in different countries where they have it kind of planning out, and then they suddenly get 800 deaths overnight. So it kind of changes drastically. So I think it's kind of for yourself you can plan ahead and think, okay, what should I do? Where should I look? What options do I have for the future? But kind of branch out and see what you have to do, because it can suddenly change from one day to the other, and kind of the uncertainty as well. So I think it's hard to to be able to really push and focus on one thing and say, okay, this is what we need to do, because that might not be able to happen. But I think it's about trying to stay positive and trying to look into what are the options, what can be done, and where the arts are going to be leading to next. Because of course there's going to be some kind of change from all this.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to go back exactly to the same as it was. So I think that's what we have to look for and see. Okay, what's going to be happening, and what we can.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, but I think I understand what you were saying. I think it would be interesting to speak to everyone in this group in like a month or in 2 months again to meet and to see where we're at and what's changed. And because right now there's just this sense of like, we don't know what we're supposed to be doing, right? Michael, did you want to say something? You're doing sign language, so. No? Okay. Delphine, I have a question for you. So I hear people saying, that they're trying to train at home. Does it feel trivial to you, like pointless because there's so much suffering going on in the world, or does it feel like a matter of life and death to you to kind of keep a routine going?
Yeah, I guess for me it's a matter of life. So that's the main concern for me, is how I will keep me in shape, because without aerial, without my routine, without climbing, it's all of a sudden like my life so is gone. So I try to figure out how I can. Fortunately, I hurt myself next summer, so I began to think about what can I do for training without all my body. And so now I figure out how I can train without all my materials. So
I saw your Instagram picture the other day of you dragging 2 roommates down the hallway by their hair. That was a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, no, I tried to find solution. It was a joke because of that, because of how I can, I begin to be so creative, because of course and it's a joke, because when it's hard, you can joke about everything. It's good. It's good for your mental health.
Yeah.
But of course, it's pretty hard, and I try to figure out how I can train my grip like every day in my apartment. So I begin to make holes in all my roof. And
wow.
Yeah, I try. So yeah, I make some changes. I try to figure out, find solutions, make things funnier as I can, to stay connected, shape, to see people working, to see how I can work with that. I try to make a calendar very clear. So what I do each day.
Oh yeah, you're doing a routine.
Yeah, a very big routine to keep myself, to have the feeling to improve, or to have some goals, continue to figure to go on.
That's one reaction. I know a lot of people have that reaction, and a lot of people have the completely paralyzed, like I don't want to do anything kind of feeling. And it
depends on day. I guess it depends on day, because we are all, I guess we are all like, someday we just can't doing nothing. Sometimes I see people train and it get me lost almost, because I feel like I'm doing nothing no more. I can do things. I have these feelings. But some days I'm just focused on the routine and just keep it on and try to continue. So yeah, it depends on the day, depends on the energy, but yeah, we do the best. Yeah.
Does anyone else want to talk about how they deal with the training, Joe?
Well, I think we can all say that as circus artists, we know what our bodies need and what we want them to do, like, aerialists want to climb and stuff. But in a certain way, we're all kind of vain, because we want to like keep it nice, and so we'll do what we can. Like I run now, you know. Yeah, and a neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and what's actually nice is that, I mean, I live in LA and nobody's driving anymore because we all have to stay home. So the air is like ridiculously clean. And so when I'm running around, I'm like, why does this feel weird? Oh, I'm getting so much oxygen. This is so new in Los Angeles. But it's also nice to see so many people running and doing things that they wouldn't usually do. Because like in terms of my time, I try to do like one thing a day. And I don't try to do much more than that because we have time now. So like I'll clean my room, which needed that. Or I will work on applications for federal aid, or I will work on cleaning out my computer desktop. If I do one thing a day, I know it can be done, and then I'll feel a little bit accomplished. I think the grief period for many people were in like the first 2 weeks. And like we're going into week 4 here in Los Angeles because California cracked down really early. And I'm kind of used to it. And this and like this is fine. But I also realize I'm pretty lucky in that, you know, I have a place I can be. I have places I can run to. I can go to the grocery store, and yeah, we might have to wait, but at least it's there. So there are some people who don't have that, but there's some people who have better, you know, like Diego was saying in Germany. I heard some people already got their aid from the government, you know, and I'm like, wow. You know, in the US, we have nothing. We have nothing. Like our government hates us, you know, and right, seriously. And but like everyone's been saying, we're all in the same situation, and I don't know about everyone else, but I feel that there's this odd comfort in knowing that we're all screwed. It's like, oh, it's not just me. It's not even just our industry. It's everybody. Like the restaurant industry is gone, you know. And so it's like, oh, if the arts are finally like, we have partners in our commiseration, then cool, great. I mean, it's not like fun, but at least we're not alone in our suffering. And for some reason, for me, it's like, oh, that's kind of nice in a weird way.
Yeah, or at least it makes it feel less personal. It's not like, oh, just misfortune's happening to me. You just realize it's happening to everyone, so I really can't sit around and feel too sorry for myself. I guess that's kind of, it's a mix between that and knowing that you're not, you don't need to have FOMO because you're not missing out on nothing, you know, not a dang thing. Eric, as a juggler, training is probably a non-issue for you right now. You can do whatever you want, right?
Yeah, you know, you get self-conscious about dropping stuff on the floor when you live in an apartment for the neighbors and stuff. But yeah, and we're lucky in Montreal. It's pretty easy to go to a park as well, where there's plenty of space without being near people. So for physical activity, I've been doing that, and you know, even hanging pull-up bars or whatever over a tree branch or something.
They've closed the parks here. We're not allowed to go to the parks either, which is kind of sad. But because too many people were just congregating in parks, and it was an issue.
Yeah, it's hard to know because on the one hand, it feels like you know, vacation is normal when you're not working. Like you still go to the supermarket and all this stuff, and at the same time, people are dying, and you want to respect that. And like, I'm not too worried about how good my juggling is, because that's the priority, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So
makes sense.
trying to find that balance of living life as usual and also respecting this thing that is very serious. It's shut down the entire world. So
this drama that's unfolding around us. Yeah, we're part of it. Julia. So I'm just thinking about creativity, not so much about practice, but, you know, with worry about our family and our loved ones, with worry about our financial security, does that impact your creativity at all, or does it fuel it?
I feel a little bit more creative. I think that this pause, like all of a sudden I was, like I realized myself, like just thinking about the festival and what do I have to do and my training and all the things at the same time. And then it just stopped from one day to another. And I find myself like with me again and doing the things that I wanted to do and start talking to other people and how they feel and what they want to do, that then I start feeling more creative and writing and thinking about music and shows and things that we can do. So I've noticed that all around the world as well. Like I've seen artists like trying to be there and standing up and doing what they like to do, and then it feels like our industry it's more creative at this time, and I find so much great people in the last 3 weeks that I think that I found in 2 years. And then we are connecting and talking about projects and just
that's cool.
It feels really nice actually, and also I feel like here in Mexico, for example, it's very complicated because it's sad to see how artists are trying to deal with this situation, because we don't have any support from the government. There is one scholarship that they just released, I think 1 week ago, but it's $800, sorry, and it's for all the people. So they will give around 20, 30 supports, which is nothing.
Yeah.
And $800 is not $800 is not a lot of money to leave the whole situation.
Right.
So I think that opens me to have more empathy to my friends, or just to the sector, the art sector in general. But I feel this like an opportunity as well. Like a very, very good opportunity to work on new strategies to keep the sector active and productive and creative, and as well to develop new proposals for the future, because we really need to think about the future here in Mexico and how artists are seen and supported. And we realize we don't have any organization. So then, like in 3 weeks, we got this thing in the face saying, okay, so you don't have anything because we haven't built anything. So now it's a good opportunity to build it.
You're starting an organization now for circus artists and researchers, is that right? In Mexico?
Yeah. Yeah. We started in Mexico with Chile, but now we have all these people, and what we mainly do is to talk about how it's in other places, like how do you approach health in Chile, in Colombia, in Uruguay? How do you feel? Because we know we are always looking somewhere else, and we're not looking what is going on here. And we are a big community. So now we are starting to do a little bit of structure and going to see how this can work in Latin America, and also in Mexico. There are little groups working on that too. Mainly in Guadalajara, there is a group named Tierra de Circo, and they are working on strategies to go with the government and talk about the situation and to develop things for us.
That's beautiful. Yeah, you guys are being very proactive. It's great. I mean, Canada has a circus organization that represents artists. US doesn't have one yet. So it's good to hear that Latin America is working on one. That's cool. Michael, you wanted to say something? And then Mishan. Yeah.
Yeah, about being productive, I just want to say that it's really enjoyable to see how the circus community is always bubbly and creative. You were talking about online coaching, about the home training, and I see every day things that are super enjoyable. About like people just staying. It's like it's a passion for everybody, I think. So you just want to find a way to keep going, to stay alive in what you do, and it's obviously a very hard time, but that's one thing that makes me feel better and surrounded alone in my house.
Yeah, it makes us feel more connected. That's an interesting way to look at it. I agree.
Mhm.
Mishan, what did you want to say?
No, I wanted to say because here in Sweden, it seems like I was in Montreal before, and then it kind of kicked off, and we got sent home. And I came to Sweden, where they have a different approach to the whole thing, and it's been kind of, they've taken a step back and not being too crazy about locking down, and I think the Swedish government have seen, okay, let's see how it plans out in itself, and take the right directions towards that. They've closed schools and trainings and all that kind of stuff, but they're seeing kind of different options. This year has been talking about maybe bringing in students just separately to come in and be able to train, so that there's no connection or contact between people. There's been options for that we've been talking about. Also, there's like En Piste, there's Manation here, that they've been trying to reach out to see if some kind of funding and what they can do for the artists as well. So it's been nice to see. There's been a different approach of not just total panic and kind of, and I think it's maybe kind of the Swedish way, because Swedish people are very distant in that way already, so we're kind of used to like, isolation. So I think people are seeing it different way, and it's funny to see how they're reacting to it here. And then with the arts, they're kind of really being helpful. It's hard for me because I've done all my stuff through the States, so I don't have that big of a connection to be able to get funding here, but I'm trying. But for the people that are working here with CircusTalk, with the companies here, they're really being helpful, and it's there's a lot to be done as well. Like I know a lot of friends here, artists, are trying to see what can we do to help people that are sick or in need. Like they've been starting to do quick help to come in the healthcare. They're doing like quick what's it called? I'm trying to figure it out.
Like testing, or
no, to help out in the hospitals somehow. So they're doing these kind of it's like quick. I'll be able to.
Can't remember the word. That's fine.
No.
But that's cool. I wonder if the organizations around the world, like En Piste and Circus Strata, they're all working to kind of like keep the infrastructure going, for next season. I haven't spoken to any of them lately, but I wonder if they're thinking of 2020 still, or if they've already moved on to 2021. And if up until then, if the measures that they're taking are also accommodating for the artists, or if they're mostly for companies and organizations. Has anybody heard anything from any of their support organizations about that? No? Well, I guess we should hop in on some of their Zoom calls and find out. Joe, I have a question for you. We've talked a little bit about this, but I think you have an interesting ideas about how the circus industry might change or be forced to change as a result of this pandemic. Is there any vision that you have for how things might differ next year?
Yeah, I mean, we discussed this a little bit, and like Eric said, seeing a show live versus on video, it's a completely different thing. And a part of the reason of why I think almost all of us got into it is the live aspect, the risk that happens day to day on stage, that's so alluring for us. But in terms of the industry coming back, we hear news about the companies that are in our world and how they're doing. And it's really, you don't know how to take it, because it's kind of discouraging at a certain point. But when you think about it, when we get the green light to come back, a company like Cirque du Soleil is going to take a while to come back because they're so big. Like they have so many pieces to put together in terms of infrastructure before they even consider getting the artists back in. And there's companies that are smaller, like Barcode and Back Pocket and my company, where we just need what we need, and it's not too much. I mean, yeah, it'll be costly, but it's not like reinvigorating an entire institution. It's like, oh, I just got to call my artist and get some insurance, and we go. Cool, let's pack up the costumes. Let's go. 'Cause, I think we're in a, I don't want to say better position, but we know exactly what we need, and it's doable. We don't have to hire 4,000 people back. There's like 8 of us, and that's a little reassuring that we function that way. Like I don't know about other companies, but we don't tour all the time, so we're used to like not working. And so this was like, oh, this is 2020 was supposed to be our off year anyway, so we're like, oh, we don't have to cancel anything. Great. So like that's why mentally I'm like chilling. But in terms of getting the show back, I know what it takes to get the show back. Like last year when we went to Edinburgh, I got the news really late that we were going, and I only had 3 months to get everyone back, and to get things together like insurance and flights. Oh my God, flights! That's gonna change things.
Oh, hey, Alex.
Hey, Alex.
Yes.
Yes.
Welcome. Hey, can you mute your microphone for a minute, Alex, and then we'll introduce you when Joe's done speaking.
Il y a plein de gens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep going, Joe.
Okay. So yeah, I was in a Zoom call yesterday with a bunch of friends, and we were all saying, the travel industry is going to change because they're realized, and business in general, because you don't need to fly someone in for a meeting. You could do it like this. And so that's going to change a lot. I think a lot of flights that we depend on to get to places, because we always have to fly everywhere, that's going to get cut down. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like, how much will plane tickets cost now? Will they slash all prices because they want people in, or are they going to be more expensive because they're more exclusive? So things like that. But in terms of putting the pieces together, we can do it bigger, faster than bigger companies. Like I feel for these bigger companies in a way, like the empire toppled over, and then you hear of what's happening with Circus and the Seven Fingers. It's not too bright either. But what we can do is like just be there for each other, as corny as that sounds. Like I've been talking with people I don't usually talk to, and it's not like I don't like them, it's just like we don't talk because we're just so busy. But in like even when Kim, like when you invited me to take part of this, I was like, oh God, I have to wake up at 7. No, I have to wake up at 6:30 so I like look okay so I can talk at 7. But I said yes because I know almost everyone here. Like I'm meeting Julia for the first time, and I'm like, I just want to see all their faces because I miss them all. And oh, thanks. But I think something like this, it feels nice to know that even though we're alone together, as they're saying, we're all separated, but we want to see each other. And if we want that to happen, we're going to find a way to make that happen.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Joe. Thank you for that uplifting message.
Welcome.
Alex, would you like to introduce yourself? Can you hear us? I don't know. I think Alex is frozen. Okay, we'll come back to Alex. So yeah, I think an interesting conversation to have now, because we're getting down to our last like 5 to 10 minutes, would be to talk a little bit about, let's take Joe's message and like stretch it out and everybody say what they think is hopeful about their lives, about the world, about circus, about the art form. What's something positive you've experienced? And Eric would like to speak. So let's start with you.
Yeah, so one thing that's hard to ignore is the environmental impact that this is having. Like Joe already said, the air is getting clearer in LA, and that's true everywhere. You can see it in satellites, and like China is seeing the sky again, for example. And I think that's great. And I think that people are talking about prioritizing local companies, which I hope will extend to like local energy sources as well, and making like microgrids and all these things we've talked about needing. This is like kind of a wake-up call of what the world, kind of the dangers of interconnectivity, but also of the possibilities of a way to reimagine the future, at least for the climate crisis's sake. I'm excited about that. So I hope that'll change.
I think that's really cool. I think that would require a lot of like governmental assistance and coordination. And I don't know if our government is experienced, or at least in the US, I don't know about the world, but probably also in the world, if humans are the same everywhere, which they seem to be, is like, will the powers that be understand the impacts and the changes that need to happen if they're still trying to protect their power? You know, I mean, I think on the grassroots level, you're so correct about how everybody's noticing these things and saying and reprioritizing and saying this is so important. Maybe we'll be able to translate that to the people in power. I hope.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right about capitalism and power kind of being the enemy of climate change, but maybe because we have this as a case study by accident because of this virus, we will be able to see positive impacts that people can point to and say, look, this was actually a good thing that happened during this terrible time. How can we, take that good thing and reproduce it once things go back to normal?
Yeah, that's a good point, Eric. And Diego, did you have something positive to add?
What I wanted to say is nothing better than a crisis to make us stronger, and it will affect in every sense, like you were saying about governments, Eric. I feel that Latin America was in a very comfortable zone because the government put us there. So we were like kind of getting used to not develop our artistic or our security. So yeah, it's not gonna work. So we fight less, and it's hard to keep going when you receive no for years. But then when it affects us all and put all in the same place, you start to think, actually, no, that's really wrong. And it took everyone out of their comfortable zone, So it's not just a reflection about artist to artist, but also from other professions towards artists, because they will also feel what is to lose their security, And it will put us together. It will get us more voice. We're gonna get louder with that. And other thing about creation wise, I do think that we are getting more creative in a total as well, because we are out of our comfortable zone, and that's what we search for. We search for getting out of it to create, and now we lost everything. Like we are independent in every sense, and now it's like, okay, I'm still an artist and I must create. That's the air I breathe. Being very cheese, but that's what ignites me. And well, if I just have my table in my room, I gotta do something with the table in the room, because if I don't do, like, things will get worse. We need to. So I think I keep myself positive that it doesn't matter the crisis that we go through. It's like a war. After that, we have more empathy. We search for more stability. So I think we will make us in a global measure, sense, stronger.
That's so. Thank you, Diego. So beautiful. And you're next.
Right?
It reminded me of something Joseph said another night. You were talking about how artists experience this all the time, this insecurity of how are we going to pay rent? How are we going to put this show up, right? This is something that everybody on this site probably is used to already. So in a lot of ways, the whole world is now experiencing this kind of not being prioritized and not being supported. So it's not that different, maybe, in a way. I mean, I know it is because the whole world's experiencing it, but still, it's an interesting perspective that you're saying we got to work with what we have. Michael, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, I would say that creatively, I think it's going to be rich because, how do you say contrainte in English?
Anybody?
The contrast?
Constraints?
Constraint.
Sorry.
I think constraints boost the creativity all the time because you have to walk around things, and now we have a lot in every field of our activity. So that might be a good impact in the future, create new forms. Diego was talking about working on a table because you don't have anything else. That might be an act one day. And I feel like I'm looking forward to see it. And I feel like it's going to be like that with every field of our activity. And so, yeah, creatively, I'm sure that will be a boost.
I agree. There'll be some dark art coming out in the next couple months. Mishan, you had something to say?
I think just with this happening as well, I think there's going to be a high demand for the arts after everything comes back to normal. Kind of, I think people are itching for it to happen, and I think people are going to be missing seeing live performance. I think all around the world, I think that's going to be something that people are going to want to have back. So I think it's going to be good for smaller companies as well to be able to get gigs and perform, because I think it's a lot of people want it to come back as quick as possible, because even now, like the arts, we're being creative. People are writing, wanting to write books, make music, find ways to be creative, and it's all part of the arts. And that's people that not in the arts kind of are in that as well. They're watching TV shows. It's actors, performers, all kind of singers are all affected. So I think that's a high demand of wanting to come back. So I think with this creative bubbliness that we're having now during this time that we can't really do anything, it's going to drive us to really come out with things a lot stronger, a lot better, and be creative and use that creativeness to come back strong.
That's great, Mishan. I think you're right. Alex, can you hear us? Okay, take your mic off. Introduce yourself.
Allô, désolée. Yes, I am Alex. I work with Eric in Barcode, and I'm in France, as maybe Eric explained before. Our tour got cancelled, as everybody's tour, and some circus folk from France rescue me. I don't know how to say that. As I was waiting in Switzerland, not knowing really what to do. Do we wait? Do we go back home? Oh, there's no plane anymore from Switzerland. Okay, maybe we can make a creation in Acoriacro's place. Maybe we're gonna do one in a barn with Matthias and Christine and a bunch of Swiss artists in Burgundy. Oh no, it's not happening. So then it all like became until that moment where there was only 24 hours to move to a place and stay confined for 15 days. So a friend from Acoriacro and another friend that they knack together proposed that we can go all together to a house in Italy where my family is from, and we can stay there for 2 weeks. So I said just okay, yes, and they fed me at the train station near Geneva, and we are all here together with another friend from Barreau-des-Velles and another dancer from Toulouse. So it's really agreeable actually to be in the nature, but it's so confronting every day to read the news and see the situation in Montreal where people actually are a bit more germaphobic than French people. So I think France is a good place to live this end of the world crisis, because people react with the smoking and drinking instead of panicking.
Bad idea.
And so at least we're having fun. Yeah, exactly. And we already had apéro, of course. And I'm like everybody else. I'm trying to understand what we should do next, and I think I see a lot of opportunity in this moment.
That's good.
As a citizen of the world, I said citizen of the world, I'm so sorry. As a person, and I was really shocked when I talk with other people and realize that Cirque du Soleil might close, and Circus as well. And I think it's a good thing.
Delphine, did you want to, thank you, Alex. Delphine, did you want to say something about your hopes? Because we're kind of going through, Alex, you jumped in late, but we're going through and everybody's finishing up and saying what they found positive in the experience so far.
Yeah, but the thing I want to say is quite the same thing as everyone. So it's that's it. Yeah, for sure, it's a good way to find creativity at other place. I love constraints. I don't even know these words. Also, constraints. I love constraints for creation. Of course, it's a base. So for me, it's good to feel trapped because this is a better way to feel how to be free. So yeah, I feel the same as you guys, and I think it's a good time to be together and to I think I'm not so worried for the creativity and arts. It's more sometimes I just worried for people. That most at the point, so yeah, for me the hope is like day by day hope and day by day everything,
Yeah, living in the moment versus planning the future. It's trying to find that sweet balance. That's very hard to do at this time. Did anyone else have a message they'd like to say before we depart? Joseph?
Yeah, I know everyone's talking about like how constraints help creativity. I mean, it's true because when you don't have everything you need, you find some solutions. I mean, but the amount of shows that are going to be made about self-quarantining and coronavirus, oh my God, you guys.
Yeah.
Every show is just going to be about, I was so alone, I discovered myself. It's like, oh God. So I think one thing that we could think about is not necessarily how to avoid that, but how can we make the work that we want to that's still relevant without just diving right into that, Sorry, Eric. I said it first. No, for instance, like the show that I have, I little plug, it's on the internet for like a week and a half more if you want to watch it. But I've tried to find how that existing work relates to the world now, as opposed to how it did even back in August when it went up. It's so awful to say, but like in terms of marketing it, I have to use a different language now because I need to have people feel more of a personal connection. I mean, luckily my show is about that, but how can I use that to help not only just the show, but make people feel connected still? So in terms of new work, I mean, like, let's not all be trite and just make Corona shows, but we are being forced to think a different way. And like Alex said, it's sad that sometimes the big companies might close, but then now it's like, okay, now what do we do? It's good to stay in the moment. Like Delphine said, we're great about that. We're getting used to it now, but now's the time to see our worth as artists. And there's memes floating around. I think we've all seen them about how like all the other industries, they're like, oh my God, we're losing our jobs. And then there's James Franco with a noose around his neck, and he's like, first time, because we're all used to it. And then there's another one about how, when this thing happened, everyone's turning to Netflix and everything. So just remember that artists saved you. That one, Michael. That one.
Oh, yeah. Good one.
Yeah. And it's true. People are turning to arts because they're bored, and they're realizing how valuable we are. So hopefully they'll keep that in mind and help us out.
Yeah, and one thing. Oh, and Julia, you're next. I just wanted to respond to what Joe said real quick, and that is that sometimes another traumatic event that happened to us in 2001 was the 9/11 crisis. And if you think about how that impacted our world and our reality and the responses and the changes in our system that still exist, some of them ridiculous, but some of them, real, because of that, and the trauma that the waves of trauma and then reactions and people kind of healing. I mean, that was a process, and this is going to be probably even more impactful, more people's lives affected. And you're right, arts is going to be so influential in helping that healing. And I think of physical art like Circus even more so, because it speaks every language, and our bodies are a big part of what's happening right now to us, as our bodies are breaking down from this ailment, and we're going to have to use our bodies to show how we can conquer it. And Julia, did you want to say something? And then Alex.
Yeah, I just wanted to add about what Joe was saying about the value of the arts, and we have to keep in mind how powerful is our industry, and that is not just us as artists doing something and performing. It's all the people involved that make it happen. All the people involved in doing a festival, all the people that lose their jobs, like it's the consequence of us not performing.
Yeah.
So we have to keep in mind how powerful it is, like our industry, and that we have to keep it back, that we have to fight for it and try to keep, I don't know, if we're reprogramming and doing and try to keep it live and live as performing there and being present.
Yes, there's so many people involved. You're right, and so many people's livelihoods. So it's more of a reason to fight to come back. Yeah, I get it. Alex, did you want to say something too? Huh?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have a feeling that this whole moment is really interesting for me because I ask myself a lot of questions about our economic and the model of our society, like what is promoted. And I feel like, yes, we will want to move our bodies and everything, but I'm asking even more myself, like, can boredom, is this a thing? L'ennui?
Yeah, boredom.
To become bored. I really like to be bored even more and more because it creates in me this feeling of freedom I didn't experience so much since I was a kid. And it's different freedom. It's not the one I can go outside and do whatever I want because I have money or not. It's a freedom that is related to imagination, and I think everybody doesn't need to be a circus artist or a writer or any kind of artist. Like, everybody has access to this, and I don't think we put a lot of value in it. And this confinement moment could make it as something good. And also the other thing I'm asking myself is, why are we confined? And is it because of coronavirus that we knew it will happen because the OMS will tell the politics for so long, like the climate change, and that obviously politics value independent workers because it's less costly to the companies and it makes more money, and you have to make your own economy to have retirement, so it's not a social measure. And then that's why our hospital and health system are completely like when your nose is stuck, condensed,
Congested.
yeah, congested. Thank you. So the and in America, I mean, it's like crazy. But I'm just thinking, like, can we have this desire of becoming involved in our politics in order to prevent the next crisis? Barcode is really more and more involved in the environment, and because that's where it feels like the emergency, and now we have an emergency like this corona thing. And I'm just thinking, like, yes, we can make art, we are not connected to each other, blah blah blah, like it's really important, but I'm just thinking, can we have this reflection for further and finally become involved in politics, because circus is like the only art form that is mostly entertainment, which is kind of useless in a way. I don't know.
So
it brings joy.
You
It
feel
brings
that
pleasure and brings joy. So I'm thinking for myself as an artist, like, I want to make people want to be involved in politics.
You think
Because
circus could become
why?
more political?
Yeah. Sorry.
You think circus could become more political as a result, and maybe should become more political as an art form?
I
Yeah.
hope. I don't know how, but yes.
Yeah. I agree.
If we go back on stage one day.
Yes.
But just thinking, like, in every country, it's always this thing like, oh yeah, we need to be confined, we need to not talk, like, we always have to do the job. The people who work in the supermarket are the one who gonna get the coronavirus, and they have the lowest pay, and nobody gives a shit about them. But now they're clapping at 8 p.m. to thank them now. as you know, the Gilets jaunes in France, the revolution, it was like a lot of nurses, a lot of people in this rate of salary, and now they are the hero suddenly, and they've been like bombed before. So I'm just thinking of all that. Like, did we made this situation by not being invested in politics before, and now there is a small flu? It's a flu. It's very contagious, but it's a flu. And when we're going to have the real environmental problem, there's going to be worse, and yet we're not going to be very useful with Circus. So I'm just trying to think, can we bring this reflection a bit more serious?
To the world. Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Alex. Did you want to say something? Michael? No? Okay. Anybody else have a comment to that? No? Well, then I feel like this is a really good point because it's been 1 hour that we've been chatting, and it's been so nice speaking to everyone. I think we should do this again, maybe, like I said, in a month or something, see how things have changed, see what new topics we want to discuss. I mean, I hope that we're all, you know, in our work studios doing this, but wherever we are, we'll get together again. And I really appreciate all of you coming. I just want to say, if you're watching today, that CircusTalk has a COVID-19 resource page and cancellation page that we update very frequently to help with government resources, economic training, every kind of topic related to this that you could think of. So stop by there. And if you're commenting on the pandemic on social media, use the hashtag COVID-19 Circus Response so that we can all see what everyone is saying about it. And again, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you being here. It's been so nice. Ciao.